Paul Atreides, now Emperor Muad'Dib, sits in his palace on Arrakis, surrounded by loyal freemen and uneasy nobles. The jihad waged in his name has claimed billions of lives, uniting the universe under his banner, but at a terrible cost. He is haunted by visions of blood, betrayal, and a dark...
In a hidden chamber on Wallach 9, the Bene Gesserit, spacing guild navigators, and the Tleilaxu form an uneasy alliance. They speak of Paul as a tyrant whose messianic power must be undone. Their weapon, a Gola named Hate, resurrected from the corpse of Duncan Idaho, Paul's most loyal friend. The Gola is programmed to assassinate Paul, but memories of...
Paul wanders the desert at night, guided by visions of a golden path and a blinding sun. He sees a future where his own children are torn apart by civil war. A voice whispers from the dunes. The desert itself seems to speak to him. Chani awakens beside him, sensing his dread. Paul admits he sees his own death coming, but he will not run from it. In the distance, a sandstorm swallows the horizon.
A diplomatic envoy arrives at the palace, bringing Hate as a gift to the emperor. Paul instantly recognizes Duncan's face but feels the cold absence of his friend's soul. Chani is wary, calling him a knife wrapped in silk. Hate serves with quiet precision, his voice calm, his eyes calculating. Paul tests him in subtle ways, uncertain whether fate...
Not all Fremen support Paul's rule. Some resent the cities and palaces built on Arrakis. A rebel faction called the Fedaykin Pure swears to restore the old ways. They believe Paul has betrayed Shai-Hulud by turning the desert into an empire's jewel. The rebels sabotage spice harvesters, forcing shortages across the Imperium. Paul considers crushing them with...
Chani reveals she is pregnant after years of trying. Paul's joy is overshadowed by a terrible vision of the children, Leto II and Ganima, walking paths of both greatness and horror. He sees one future where his son becomes something no longer human. Chani notices Paul's smile fade and asks what he fears. He lies, saying he only worries for their safety. Outside, the desert wind howls like a warning. This scene is the part from movie Dune 3.
Princess Irulan, Paul's political wife and Bene Gesserit agent, grows desperate. Her orders are to ensure Paul's children are hers, not Chani's. She begins poisoning Chani's food with subtle contraceptives, unaware Chani is already pregnant. The Bene Gesserit need Atreides' bloodline under their control. Irulan smiles in court, but her journal is filled with confessions of guilt and ambition. Her loyalty to Paul is a mask. Beneath it burns envy.
Paul has another vision, an assassination attempt involving a stone burner, a banned atomic weapon. In the vision, he survives but is blinded forever. The dream shakes him so deeply that he doubles palace security. Hate watches closely, his mind torn between hidden programming and memories of Duncan's loyalty. Paul senses the Gola's inner struggle but lets him remain close. The first pieces of the prophecy are falling into place.
The Fedaykin Pure rebels strike in Arrakis, burning spice warehouses and killing Imperial guards. Crowds chant Muad'Dib is false. Paul orders the city sealed under curfew, but unrest spreads faster than the sandstorms. Chani pleads for him to speak to the people as he once did, as a leader, not an emperor. Paul knows the rebels have powerful...
During a visit to the spice markets, Paul's entourage is ambushed. A small device rolls into the street, the forbidden weapon of his vision. It detonates with searing light, melting stone and sand alike. Paul shields Chani but is caught in the blast. When the light fades, he opens his eyes and sees nothing.
Though blinded, Paul walks without aid, using prescient vision to navigate. The Fremen call him the blind prophet, and see this as a sign of divine transformation. Hate marvels at Paul's calm, sensing a strange acceptance in him. Chani tends to him with fierce devotion, her love deepening despite his wounds. Irulan watches from the shadows, realizing her place in the story is fading. Paul knows every step he takes is now part of a narrow, inevitable path.
The Spacing Guild offers to end the rebellion if Paul loosens his control over spice production. Paul refuses. Without spice monopoly, his empire will crumble. The Guild threatens to back the rebels and bring interstellar war. Paul warns them that the desert has its own way of dealing with enemies. The meeting ends in tense silence. Outside, a sandworm rises from the dunes, as if the Bene Tlilax trigger Hate's assassination programming. In a quiet corridor, Hate approaches Paul with a crysknife. But memories of Duncan, of loyalty, friendship, and sacrifice, overwhelm the commands. Hate drops the blade, shaking violently, whispering, "I am Duncan, Idaho." Paul places a hand on his shoulder, forgiving him instantly. The conspirators lose their sharpest. Chani gives birth to twins, Leto II and Ganima, but the strain is too much. She dies in Paul's arms, whispering that the children are the future. Paul's grief is absolute. The Fremen wail through the night. Irulan offers to raise the children as her own, but Paul refuses. The Bene Gesserit lose their chance at control. In his chamber, Paul stares into darkness, wondering if his visions were worth the cost. The Fedaykin Pure launch an all-out assault on Arrakis, backed by off-world mercenaries. The streets run with blood as sandworms are driven into the city. Paul leads his Fremen into battle, fighting with uncanny precision despite his blindness. Leto and Ganima are hidden away under Stilgar's protection. Hate fights beside Paul, his loyalty unshakable. The desert itself seems to rise in anger. In his chamber, Paul stares into darkness, wondering if his visions were worth the cost.
In the heart of battle, Paul sees the golden path, a future where humanity survives only if guided by a godlike ruler.
He realizes this destiny belongs not to him, but to his son, Leto II. If he stays, humanity will stagnate and die. If he leaves, the path remains open. Paul decides to walk away from the throne. The vision ends with him alone in the desert, swallowed by the sands. His choice is made.
Paul calls the imperial court and declares his reign over. He names his sister Alia regent until Leto and Ganima are of age. The announcement sends shockwaves through the Imperium. Some call him coward, others prophet. Irulan accepts her fate as a guardian to the twins. Paul leaves Arrakis without a word of farewell. Clad in simple stillsuit, Paul walks into the deep desert. The Fremen watch from the city walls, some crying, some silent. They believe he goes to meet Shai-Hulud as a true Fremen should. Hate wishes to follow, but Paul refuses, saying, "You have your part to play here." He disappears into the dunes. The wind erases his foot. Under Alia's rule, the Empire stabilizes, for now. But whispers grow that Alia is changing, her eyes too sharp, her words too cold. The twins grow quickly, their minds sharper than any child should be. Irulan keeps detailed records of their abilities, suspecting they are already dangerous. Stilgar warns that the desert's peace never lasts. The seeds of the next conflict are somewhere in the deep desert. Paul walks among the dunes, unseen by all but the worms. He listens to the wind and feels the rhythm of the sands beneath his feet. He has given up power, but not purpose. The universe believes him dead, yet stories of the blind prophet spread like wildfire. The golden path waits for Leto II, but Paul's shadow will always be there. The camera fades on endless desert and the sound of a distant worm roar. This